and welcome to another tournament in the TeaBreak. My name is Ros Satar.
My name's René Denfeld.
Marianne Bevis, the Sport Review.
And the rain has hit again. And we find ourselves with two women's semi-finals all set to go. Hurrah. We have one men's semi-final all set to go, but we still don't actually know who we're going to see in the second men's semi-final. But we will get to that in a minute. Let's start with the women. And obviously they were playing both at the same time, which made for some interesting viewing, I think. So, let's start with Garbine, because she finished first. And in fine form, I might add.
Yeah, Garbine has looked incredibly impressive, I felt, throughout the entire tournament, and today was no exception to that. I don't feel that she played light years better than what she has played during the first week. I think she played really, really well again, but I also think Maria Sharapova had a dodgy day, particularly bad serving day. Just the start, the first few games should have been ringing all the alarm bells with people, because she just didn't get her serve going, barely made 50% of her first serve, and got clobbered on the second serve by Muguruza's return, who did everything exactly the way she should have done it, and sailed through in just about 70 minutes, 2-1.
The alarm bells, as you say, were right at the start. I think it was 3 double faults in the first game for Maria, and really Garbine never looked back. I mean, she looked almost serene on court. She just had this calmness and a certainty about the way she was playing.
So certainty is a good word. I mean, obviously, coming into this, Maria had beaten her 3 times. She'd never managed to get a win, but that was 4 years ago. And it was interesting to hear that she said, I'm a much more developed player. And she's been through her ups and downs. Let's not forget her very tearful exit last year in the quarterfinals, and having to take a few minutes to compose herself. It's going to be interesting to see how she handles the Wimbledon pressure now, because obviously the pressure that was building on her to defend her first slam was immense. Maybe not from us as international journalists, but certainly from the Spanish media. And now she's going to get it all over again when the grass starts.
I disagree. I think she.
Yeah, no. But that's not.
No, I
think she's going to handle it.
I think
better.
she'll take it absolutely fine. Yeah,
I
think she feels she belongs. I think she feels she can play on grass. I know she said in press that, yes, I grew up on clay, but I could make the transition really well.
When we saw that, obviously, last year.
Absolutely.
And I also feel like with this result here, with just alone by virtue of playing well here, making the semi-finals, leading up to what will be Wimbledon in a couple of weeks. So I feel like it takes a bit of pressure off her. It's like the knowledge. Look, I play well. I have done this entire defending a slam title before. I've done it last year, and I somehow got to the quarterfinals and then had a terrible day, or a terrible experience at least, which she returned from stronger, I suppose. So I feel, with all that in mind, if she does have all that in mind, and if that's where she draws her experience from, I think she'll be fine for Wimbledon, and I think she's very, very, very dangerous in those group of last 4 players that will compete for the title.
I agree.
And talking of the last 4 players, let's have a look at how Halep eventually dismantled Kerber. To begin with, I was quite worried, because Kerber came right out the blocks, super, super quick, very, very focused, very, very good. And I know that she jokes, or maybe like semi-jokes, she's not good on clay, but we know she can play on clay. I know the Stuttgart stuff is slick like an ice rink, but it's still that slippy stuff. And I just wonder whether it's gotten into her head that, I can't deal with clay. And now I think she's proving to herself that, you're actually not that bad.
I feel like the last years, it's partially a mental thing with Kerber on clay. I do believe that the last few years, just here in Rome and Madrid, have been so bad that it's gotten into her head a little bit. And yes, I agree that she plays well in Stuttgart, but for me the thing with Kerber is that her game is so heavily reliant on her lower back, on her core and on her legs, even on the other surfaces, that it makes it so that she has to put in the extra work in order to just get her footing right and to move well. It takes her that extra bit of effort on clay that it doesn't take her on grass or on hard court. So that's, to me, why I felt that Halep at the end was the fresher player, because she's the better clay court player. And she's moving with more ease. For Kerber, it's more of a workforce, and I feel that's why she was... Yeah, she ended up being... got grinded down at the end by Halep, who just got back into that first set and was in the match.
But with Halep also, the desire and the passion to win this thing just leaked from her pores. I mean, the volume grew through the match. I think once you got over that dodgy start, and also Angelique starting pretty well, she was just determined not to lose it. It was a battle of wills. I am not going to lose it.
Now, I mean, the trouble that I have is that my heart, having watched her in Australia, and interesting enough, I mean, you know that when we sit through a final at a Grand Slam in a media centre, there is a buzz in the air. And when the result comes in, when the final result comes in, there is a buzz and a kind of frissons. When Wozniacki edged her out, there wasn't that kind of well of emotion that we normally see. All that you could hear was just people clinically tapping away at their keyboards. Everybody in Australia was willing Halep to win. And I mean, I'm going to be honest, I wish with all my heart that she gets it here, because I don't see her really continuing.
And I think
here.
that's also the memory of last year, where I think everyone believed that she would finally win her major.
And also the subsequent almost number one.
It was the number one. It was all the package together, and then to come as close as she did, and then to lose was a killer for her. It must have been, and yet she bore it so well.
I mean, give us the insight, because I was only here for the first week, so I wasn't here for the final. I watched it from home. So, give me an insight as to what it must have been like in those moments where she was up, obviously a set and a break, lost to Ostapenko, and then had to come in. I mean, I see that heartbreaking thing where she goes, I need to, and just pushes away. And
she was devastated after that final, and it took her a good while until she just clicked back in mentally into just playing. And I think that's something where I'm like, I hope, that's what I said on the grass last year. I was like, I hope she doesn't feel obliged that she has to play matches before Wimbledon, and that's why she goes to Eastbourne. I hope she goes to Eastbourne because she wants to play. Luckily, Darren Cahill was kind enough to reach out to me and say, no, I can confirm she wants to play. She's in a good place, wants to go back on court again, wants to play. So that to me was good to hear. But yeah, I felt it was Ostapenko's win here last year. It was partially exhilarating. It was confusing to a certain extent as well, because there was this 20-year-old. Barely 20-year-old had done this 5-set thing, I think 5 out of 7 matches, and just turned it around and kept playing this fearless, ridiculous tennis where Halep says, I maybe should have hit 1 or 2 returns better when I was up in the second set, but beyond that, like, there wasn't much that she could blame herself for, and I think that's what made it so tough to swallow as well. It's not like she messed anything up, and similar to Australia, she also had a dodgy ankle at the start of it. Yeah. It's like at the beginning where it didn't even, and I think that's always like in sports in general, when you feel like the scenario from the outset, it seems so outlandish that someone could go far or could go all the way because they're injured or because they're not in form. And when they then come so close, I feel like the leap between what you expected and what actually could have happened is so much bigger. And I feel that almost makes it a bit more painful, maybe for the player themselves as well. So, yeah, it was a weird day last year when she won that final.
And I think the word you used, fearless, was key, because, as you said, the number one ranking had been on the line for a sequence of tournaments and carried on through until she did actually achieve it in the autumn. And I think that's. I mean, I asked the question, about number one. I think that's a burden that is now lifted from her shoulders. Absolutely. She just wants to win this title.
And it's interesting that you say that, because I think it must have been in Cincinnati, and Courtney and I were sort of saying, are you sure you want this? Because when people have had the number one, Andy, they've pretty much buckled under the pressure. And what she actually turned around to the two of us and said, I want the chance. I want the chance to prove that I'm not going to buckle. And I have to say, I agree with Courtney. I think she's actually wearing the mantle of number one pretty damn well. Okay, I'm going to put your reputations on the line, my good people. Who is going to come out the winner of this?
Of both semi-finals or just one? Because they're both on tomorrow. That's one.
Both.
Doesn't matter. We'll have
Who do you actually think is going to end up in the final?
Garbiñe will play strong in the final.
Garbiñe.
Garbiñe is my choice as well. And as I said yesterday, Madison.
Interesting. Okay. I'm going to stick with my heart and say Halep's going to come through, but I think it's going to be a messy three-setter. I would love Madison to come through, but I don't know that I trust my heart to do 2 picks. So I think it's going to be Halep and Sloane. That'll be fun.
We'll see.
Well, we'll see. I'm just going to note down here predictions so that we can actually then rib each other silly as to what we've done. So that's the women. Of course, the men didn't get to finish, but it's nicely poised, I think, because as you were saying, Delpo and Cilic are bang evens in the first set tiebreak, whereas Diego Schwartzman came out. I mean, I think obviously Rafa's suffering a little bit with either his wrist or his forearms or both.
Yeah, hard to tell.
It's hard to tell because everything was strapped.
Yeah.
So,
and he also played poorly. I'm not sure if it was just the injury. I felt he also played poorly.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that on my timeline, and then a lot of
the
Rafa
serving
fans.
was not up to the usual Rafa serving. Now, how much that was down to the wrists and forearms, how much it was down to the play of Diego, who really took it to him,
smacked winners,
and smacked it to his backhandle. So it was really putting huge demands on both arms in that backhand corner. I mean, it was impressive stuff from a small guy, whichever way you look at it.
You just said it with both. I mean, it's interesting because he had both forearms.
Yeah.
So both wrists and forearms.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what the issue is. Strapped. So is it just because of the sheer bombardment that?
No,
Because
I noticed someone had tweeted that he'd mouthed to his box, "Don't worry, it's not a problem." So whether it's precautionary, I don't know.
Maybe he had it taped so that his sweatbands don't slip up. I don't know. So,
we don't know.
It's just pure speculation. So that's why I'm like, something was definitely a little off. Yeah. Whether that was due to injury, whether that was just because he came out a bit flat and he saw the rain. 4
winners in an hour set from Rafa is
not great.
It's unusual. I think you'd expect more from him. Now, I don't think that was entirely down to Diego.
No, and I think the rain, if it's going to help anybody, because I didn't realise until this week just how freaked out he is about rain. I never, it's never even occurred to me.
He hates it.
But yeah, he's like super agitated. I mean, he's like the Wicked Witch of the West that's going to melt in like water. I've never seen anybody. So I mean, when he walks
control,
off court,
isn't it? It's to do with control. It's when the conditions change a little in a short period of time.
He doesn't. He struggles to compute when he sees. It's not even just the rain. It's just when he sees clouds come up. When he sees it's getting cloudy.
Exactly.
He is just. It is not. It is not his favorite. He prefers it if it's sunny and hot and warm, and the ball bounces really high. And as soon as that changes, of course he can still play the way that he plays best, but it's obviously not as effective anymore because then the ball does not bounce up very high and it sits in several players pretty much in their wheelhouse, like in Rome against Alexander Zverev. So I think in terms of how he played up until that first rain delay, it was good for him that the rain came, and afterwards now it depends. If it's dry and not too,
heavy.
Not too heavy, tomorrow he'll be fine. I think he's going to go through that. But props to Diego Schwartzman, first person to take a set off of Rafael Nadal in Roland Garros.
37 sets since the start of Roland Garros last year is extraordinary. When
it is. I know that I'm probably going to get a lot of stick for sort of often saying, let's just give him the trophy and then I can go off to Montmartre on Sunday and feel vaguely religious in a Catholic country. But, this has added a little bit of spice to the whole proceedings because all of a sudden he's not as invincible. I mean, I've been on Love Sport Radio like all this last week, and everybody's just said, "Can you see anybody other than Nadal?" Nobody ever, the names in the frame have been Dominic Thiem, Novak Djokovic until yesterday, Alexander Zverev until yesterday. Nobody ever had Diego Schwartzman as the guy that would deliver the upset. I don't know that he's got I think the rain will help Rafa. I don't think it's going to help Diego.
I still think it's Rafa.
Yeah.
It's Rafa tomorrow, yes. I think
I'm
he's
inclined to agree.
Got only 2 more points to win until he wins the set, so then it's one set all, and then we'll see.
So who's going to meet him in the final, though, when they finally play their semi-final?
That's tough, because it'll be...
that is tough, because you can't bet against... no pun intended. You can't bet against Cecchinato, because... That was some result.
No, I will totally go with Dominic Thiem in that match, 100%.
You would?
Absolutely.
You
Without any, no, I've got no.
I agree.
Do you think Dominic is just going to dominate him completely, or do you think?
Sure, he might lose a set, but I do not see Dominic Thiem losing that semi-final.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're pretty happy that Thiem's going to be in the final. We think that Rafa's going to be in the final.
But who's he going to be? Who would he have to play in the semi-final?
Yeah, that's and I'll still stick with Del Potro from yesterday. Yeah.
Yes, I would be with Del Potro as well, but it's going to be interesting to see. I feel a little bit for both guys, because coming out and having to warm up and then having basically a penalty shootout in order to win the first set,
just 2 points to go,
brutal. So if it was like Rafa's got a different setting, obviously he's got a break lead, so it's more of a bit of a foregone conclusion. But this is just, it was split right in the middle, and it's 5-5 in a tiebreaker. So I feel a little bit for both guys, because like the second shower of rain came possibly 2 or 3 minutes too early. So because otherwise, at least both of them would leave today with something to hold or not hold, and now they're both just sitting in the middle of 2 chairs.
I mean, if you just look at their records, I suppose over the longer term, Delpo has a better record.
Okay.
And on that basis, perhaps I would still favour him.
Okay.
But it's tricky. So I would go with Delpo as well, but a lot is going to depend on who's going to get that first set tomorrow, who's going to come out of the starting blocks well.
I feel like our friend Jonathan, my heart is bursting for Delpo, and I hope that he does it.
I do, but Marianne as well. He's such a nice guy and one of the good guys, and he works so hard, and he's improving all the time.
Yeah.
You measure where he's got to over the last 12 months. It's an admiration thing.
Do we know what the actual schedule is?
Yes, it'll be the 2 guys first.
At what time?
At noon, and then roundabout, I think 2 would be the suggested start time for the women's semi-finals on Chatrier.
Oh, they're going to bring it forward. It was set for 3.
Whenever it finishes,
they're unlikely to play before that anyway.
Yeah.
By the time these men's matches have played
it's going to take 2 hours.
They're going to be long. I think they're going to be long matches still. Those 2 men's.
Yes.
Well, all that remains to say is thank you, Marianne, for joining us for the last 2 days. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Pleasure.
And you will hear, no doubt, from René and I over the remainder of the tournament. We'll see if we can't rope in a few dodgy people to come and talk to us.
Yeah.
Look how lovely we speak of our guests, the 3 dodgy people.
No,
kidding.
I don't mean that. You're the only dodgy one.
I know.
But you have, of course, been listening to Ros Satar,
René Dodgy Denfeld,
and Marianne about to go home, Bevis.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.